cocktail sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
All right, thank you. This is really a treat. I had a great day today. I got a chance to see a little bit of Tony's vision, and it is quite extraordinary. I went in to get a Zappos tour, and the first thing they wanted to do was cut off my tie. And I thought that's good because that's Tony's brand, but my brand actually is a Save the Children tie. So I feel that I had to somehow keep it. And so I hid it from the receptionist, and she sort of chased me around for a while, and then everything was fine. And then the second thing I did was I thought, well, okay, so Tony is invested in this great burger joint called Heart Attack. And so I wanted the full experience, and so I put on they put on a hospital gown on you, and you're greeted by these beautiful nurses, and they're all ready to treat you with CPR. And then so then I thought, well, I've got to order the big thing. So I ordered a 4 quadruple bypass, and I have never had so much beef in my body ever. So if I fall asleep up here or belch or whatever, just bear with me. It was a rough lunch. But I like Tony's vision. He thinks big. He thinks crazy. Going through his tour, there are all sorts of people with tents for desks and all sorts of crazy bicycles hanging upside down. It really was fun to see what he has in mind, and he is just going to make Las Vegas come alive. So thank you, Tony. This is great. So the first thing I thought I'd do is if we could start with you, and if you'll stand up and give a high five to as many people who are sitting down as possible, and then as soon as you've been high-fived, stand up and start giving high fives to everybody, and we'll see how long this takes. Ready? And then make sure you're, okay, high fives, go. Now you get up, high five, go, 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 go. All right, we did it. Everybody's, including me, everybody's been high-fived. Okay, so that was actually the quickest I've ever seen. That was like 9.5 seconds. And what I was describing right there was viral marketing. And this is what I came up when we did Hotmail. I came up with this idea that if I send you an email, you send it to the next guy, and he sends it to the next guy, and pretty soon we've covered the whole world. And so that's kind of a new way of marketing. And so then I thought I'd go through a few other ways of marketing too, because they've changed the whole nature of the planet. We never used to be able to really do business in India or Pakistan or Saudi or maybe Saudi because we needed their oil, but anywhere else. These new methods for marketing are really amazing. So what social media is like, oh boy, this is too big an effort. We're just going to do it amongst ourselves. All we care about is this small group, and then maybe it branches out. So it'd be like this group or that group or that group. But then crowdfunding is this. Okay, raise your hand if you would be willing to pay $4 to have a 95% chance of curing lung cancer. $4. Okay, everybody put their hand up except for that guy over there. What that means is, if that's true, there are an awful lot of people in the world that could crowdfund a great project like curing lung cancer. And that's how crowdfunding has come about. Somehow we've been able to sort of gather and source money to make great things happen. I need a ride to the airport right after this. Anybody out there able to give me an air? Okay, good. Okay, that's called crowdsourcing. You go out to the crowd and you say, hey, what's the most efficient way of me getting a ride to the airport? I was going to say a cheeseburger, but no way. Not for a month. So this is my life. I go around and my message to the world is there aren't enough heroes out there. So my goal is to encourage and train and do everything I can to make heroes effective. And so we've been very successful, and we funded that guy in the far corner and these two down here, but I'm sorry we missed these two, except that my dad did get a hold of Tony before he did Link Exchange. So we're pleased that Tony has also done very well for our family. But what's interesting about all four of them, and the reason I use this picture of Tony delivering happiness, is that I've heard all four of them talk about delighting the customer. So that's in their mind, delight the customer. And I think if your mission in life is to delight the customer, you will do whatever it takes. I do know that Steve Jobs interviewed all the laser manufacturers who would cut the bezel along the glass along their iPhone so that they would, so that iPhone would be just the right curvature. And it's that kind of attention to detail and that attention to delighting the customer that I think creates the greatest entrepreneurs in the world. So keep that in mind. And boy, these guys have come up with amazing products. And the reason I have superheroes here is because I always think, you know, if you think about the heroes, you're kind of looking into history. And if you look at the superheroes, you're looking at what people's imaginations could be. So what could possibly happen out there? This is what I call my pre-roll. My dad wrote a great book called The Startup Game, Relationship Between the Entrepreneur and the Venture Capitalist. This is my daughter. She's the Valley Girl. Sorry, Tony, she couldn't make it. Big emergency career thing going on there. But she's got this great show, and she actually interviewed Tony Hsieh. You got to see it. It's very funny. She's done things like, you know, got Ted Turner to sing Captain Planet with her, and got Vinod Khosla to paint her green, and, you know, that standard interview style stuff. My son started an incubator called Boost, and so he's open for business. I'm going right through the family here. And then this is, of course, DFJR Fund. Remember us when you're out there looking for money. So I talked a little bit about viral marketing, but it came about when we found these two young entrepreneurs, 26 years old, and they wanted to start this business that was free web-based email. And I said, and they said, it's up. And I said, that's great. Well, what's up? I didn't know what up meant. And they said, oh yeah, it's on the internet. You can actually have an email account and send somebody an email. And I said, is there some way to just spread it out to all those guys? And they said, oh no, that would be spamming. I said, okay, spamming, that's a new word, except for that bad ham food thing. And so I started thinking, okay, well, wait a second, and you guys want to give this away. Isn't there some way, you're giving it away, you might as well put a little ad at the bottom of everybody's email that says, P.S. I love you, get your free email at Hotmail. And I think they looked at me and they said, of all the investors in the world, why did we end up with this one? But I kept pounding and pounding and pounding, and finally they said, okay, we'll do it, but no P.S. I love you. We'll just say, get your free email at Hotmail. And it spread to 11 million users in 18 months, and it was an enormous success. But to this day, I still believe that we would have a more peaceful and loving world if we had kept the P.S. I love you in the statement. Anyway, my other experience in India, I'm going to kind of take you around the world here. My other experience in India was with my Indian partner, and he said, okay, Tim, you ready to walk across an Indian street? And, you know, there are camels coming this way, and a guy with a rickshaw, a motorcycle, and cars zipping and honking, and people, babies crawling across the street. And I'm looking, I'm going, okay. And I kind of get halfway across, and there are cars going on both sides of me. And you know, cars really going in 9 directions across wherever I was going. And I looked and I saw an opening and I ran across the street, and my partner goes, "No!" I said, "What?" "I made it." And he goes, "No sudden movements." So everybody in India is doing partial differential calculus as they cross the street. They're an amazing talent, software talent coming out of India because of that. So anyway, the world got Hotmail, and it spread very quickly. So if you're starting a business, you've got to think globally, because somebody else has your idea, and they may be thinking locally. If you can think globally, if you can think, how can I take this and spread it around the world and compete with the best entrepreneurs in the world, I'll be a great success. And so there are big opportunities in global warming, global finance, global communications, global health. And DFJ also recognized this early, and so we set up global offices of venture capital. I'll tell you a little bit about China. I went to China about 28 years ago. I was with my dad. He was on a UN mission, and we arrived and we got in the only car that went on the only paved road to the only international hotel in all of Beijing, this Friendship Hotel. And you know, everybody was on bicycles and walking their food and doing this thing. And then I said, well, this is great. It's a great experience. Didn't really think about it. And then about 15 years later, somebody said, "Damn." And I said, "What happened?" He said, I created a $90 million chocolate company in in China, and it was nationalized. The government took it away from me. And I said, "Oh, that's horrible." But I thought, $90 million chocolate company? Wow, maybe I should make a trip to China. And so I went to China, and I drove from Shanghai to Hangzhou. And by the way, things had picked up a little, but everybody was living in these 2-story concrete tilt-ups, and I was looking out the window. It was about a 3-hour drive. I was getting pretty bored, but then all of a sudden I saw one with a blue window and a spire, and it's kind of fixed up. And then I went a little further, another blue window and a spire, another blue window and a spire, and I thought, wow, that blue window salesman is going to make a fortune. And then I thought, oh no, it's not just blue windows, it's everything. It's going to be keeping up with the Joneses. The Joneses were in the 50s, if the Joneses bought a refrigerator, you had to. If they bought a vacuum cleaner, you had to. And so moving that forward, if they buy a cell phone, you have to, smartphone, you have to, computer, you have to. So I thought, wow, this is a big opportunity. And so I was talking to this big high-level minister in China, and he said, invest in our country. And I said, I'm not going to invest in your country. This guy created a $90 million company, and you nationalized it. And he said, well, what do you suggest? And I said, let people make money in your country, and then you'll get more money than you ever imagined here. And I don't know whether he was listening or something lost in translation or whatever, but he did it. And somehow made it very easy for us to invest. And then we made these investments. The first 3 in China were in people who said they had great government connections. And I lost all my money in all 3 of those. And then we thought about what we really do. We back young entrepreneurs, driven, excited entrepreneurs who really want to change the world. And that's where we came up with Baidu and Focus Media and Kongzhong and all these great successes out of China. Then I had a great experience. We funded Skype. And I had a conference my friend Tony Perkins was putting on in Palo Alto, and I committed to speak there. But then Skype was going to have their first board meeting in Estonia, and I was just dying to go to Estonia. So I said, Tony, God, I think I'm not going to be able to do this, but maybe we can do a video conference. And at that time, video conference was like this. And Tony's game for anything, so he kind of goes, oh, okay, sure, we'll do video conference. Can you get that guy Nicholas Zenstrom to sit and do like a fireside chat with him? And I said, oh yeah, sure. So I called Nicholas and I said, hey, can we do a video conference? Is there a way to do video conference from Estonia? Do they have any setups? And he said, oh yeah, no problem. So we're sitting down and getting ready to do our video conference. And he turns and he faces the door and he says, "Okay, throw the switch." And I looked at him and went, "What?" He said, "Well, we've been working on something in the lab." At that time, we only had audio, and we had about 3 million users of audio and maybe 100,000 simultaneous users of audio on Skype. And I said, "Okay, we'll throw the switch." And he said, "Yeah, we're using our system." And I, "What?" And then I said, "Okay, Tony, make sure the phone works because this may not be so great." Anyway, we had this video conference. It was perfect. It was clear as a bell. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Nicholas, how did you do that? It was so clear." And he goes, "Well, I think we cut off 100,000 simultaneous phone calls so we could get the bandwidth, so we could get the video across." Anyway, entrepreneurs have to do whatever it takes, and that's one of them. I skipped over Singapore. Singapore is an awesome country. My daughter went there with me, and she said, "Wow, it's like the Jetsons." Everything was very cool there. And Russia's sort of just the opposite. They went 75 years. The Bolsheviks came in and they took over. "Oh, yes, go throw out the old rich guys, and here we come." And sounds a little like what's going on now, but in America. But the Bolsheviks came in and they, in effect, sort of raped the country, but then they said business is illegal. So for 75 years, business has been illegal in Russia. So think about this. You're a Russian entrepreneur and you're trying your best, but your father or mother and your grandparents and their parents, all of them believed that business was bad and illegal, and you're trying to make it in the business world. This is tricky for Russia. We've had 4 false starts in Russia, and we're still sticking with it because it's a very intelligent, very driven population, but for science. But getting over this business hump is a challenge. Ukraine was fun because I went and I got to meet the president of Ukraine, and he used instant messaging to overthrow the previous president of Ukraine. It was the Orange Revolution, and what they did was they kept the pressure on 24/7. They had all the pretty girls in the front row putting flowers in the guns of the guards at the Capitol, and when they ran out of flowers, the pretty girls would go and they'd text, and somebody would bring them more flowers, and then they'd say, "And we're getting a little hungry," so then they'd bring them pizza or whatever food they bring in Kiev. And the pressure finally had the government collapse. And so I went and I met with him, with President Yushchenko, and I said, "Boy, I'd never invest in your country. This is my new strategy." And he goes, "What do you mean? You were the first guy to ever come here without a visa." And I said, yeah, I like that. I didn't have to have a visa. And I said, "But it takes 23 bureaucrats in 6 months for you to start a business here." And I said, "That's just, I can't take it." And he said, "That will be 1 week, 1 bureaucrat." And, it never happened. But the message I got was that these guys are all competing for you guys. They're competing for the entrepreneurs and the capital and the businesses of the world, and we should know that. And our country should start to compete too. Same thing happened in Egypt and Tunisia. They both got overthrown, but this time it was Facebook and Twitter that overthrew them. And Arab Spring is just taking off. All sorts of things are happening. Bad governments are going to fall, and good governments are going to thrive, and people are going to leave places like California and come to Nevada because the taxes are better and they're more business friendly. So I don't know if you can see this, but I'm trying to build a school right now, and this is kind of what I'm getting. But what's interesting is governments are going to compete for us, and so those competitive things are going to be changing. I mean, they're going to change the whole world. What's happened here, I'm showing you a couple of things. One is Sealand. This is a new country over England. And this is Blue Seed, which is a country that's out in the Pacific Ocean about 11 miles, so that they're outside the law of the ocean. And then this is the Arab Spring, and then there's Bitcoin. And if you put all that together, you start thinking, wow, these land-based countries may not be the solution for the future. The internet may have something to do with the way countries operate. And these countries are going to have to compete for us. Now, the land-based countries are going to continue trying to, long arm of the law and pull from you and tell you what to do and all that. But the more fluid we are, the less control they'll have over that. And this is really interesting. This could be changing the whole way the world works. And some great entrepreneurs are doing some great things in Bitcoin or with the blue seed or overthrowing all the bad governments in the Arab countries. So, and you guys are doing it here. I mean, this is fantastic. It is so exciting for me to see. I drove in and I was thinking, God, this is a pretty seedy area, but I'm a big guy, everything will be fine. And I'm walking through the street, we were a little lost. I had no idea where the Ogden was or whatever, and so I was just kind of wandering around thinking, boy, Tony's got a big one on his hand. But then I went into the cocktail lounge, the downtown cocktail lounge, and all these entrepreneurs were in there, and I thought, oh, I get it. This is what's going to happen. All these guys are going to come and they're going to infiltrate, and it's going to be fantastic. As an entrepreneur, I'm going to go quickly through this. Change is happening faster and faster. $1,000 worth of compute power doubles every 18 months. That means a new platform happens every 18 months. You entrepreneurs can take advantage of every new platform as it comes and change the whole nature of the world. And if you have a really clever idea and then you cleverize that with customer feedback, you can build a very great business. This is also interesting. The installed cost of electricity. Everybody says that electricity is a big problem, oil, all that stuff. But the installed cost of electricity continues down. Kind of a new concept here. So if that kind of change is happening this fast, there's that accelerating change. If it doubles every 18 months, there's an accelerating doubling. Think about all the things that have happened over the last 150 years. Everything from the light bulb to the bomb, the pill, the microwave, fiber optics, search engines, smartphones, television, cars, and rocket ships, and everything else. That's all happened in the last 150 years. You think about this acceleration, the next 10 years, next 10 or 15 years, you're going to see the same amount of human change. So you better be ready for change. You better embrace change or even lead change because it's happening. It's gonna either hit you or you're going to hit it. So think about that, a near infinite energy supply that's very cheap, or non-invasive surgery. Oh, by the way, we funded this company that's non-invasive security. You walk through the little thing that looks like a metal detector, and the person behind the curtain sees you completely naked. All sorts of applications for that. And the food drop, I always thought, food drop. Because, I was always hungry as a kid. I was running around and I never wanted to stop to eat. So I thought, food drop. And I kept hoping that the food would drop into my hands. Eventually we'll get there. And then there's near thought communications. Okay, so it's not working yet, but it's coming. And then think of the 2 or 3 years after that. The same amount of change could happen in the 2 or 3 years after that. So you as entrepreneurs have to really be thinking out there. You have to be way out in order for the right things to happen and go your way. So need anticipation, and it's starting to happen. I can push 2 buttons and have an Uber or a Lyft come to me, a cab or a car, just come to me. I can get a pizza, same way, a couple of buttons and I'm there. So eventually they're going to be checking your blood sugar levels with some ongoing feedback loop, and they're going to be saying, oh, your sugar level's down, a pizza will be there in 3.5 minutes. Martian colonies. I think there's going to be human-animal communications. You're going to be able to, read those wavelengths of the birds and the cats, and you're going to know what that cat is thinking. And all those things you've done to your dog, beware. Transporter beams, holodecks. Just watch Star Trek. That stuff's starting to happen. This is viral marketing. It grows really fast. This is crowdsourcing, and the part I want to tell you about the most is right here. I funded a company, and it was these watches, and they read your email. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And it was a great entrepreneur, and I thought, fantastic. And he called up, and he was very down, and he said, I think this, I don't know what's going to happen here, and it doesn't seem good. And I was just going, okay, there we go, right off another one. And then he goes and he comes up with this idea that he's going to put the watch on Kickstarter. And he calls me back about 3 weeks later, and he goes, it worked. And I said, what worked? We have $10 million. I said, what? He said, we got $5 million in just free money on Kickstarter, and we got $5 million in pre-orders on Kickstarter. We are in business. And so I thought, wow, whoa, this crowdsourcing, really serious. Crowdfunding, really serious stuff. So, as an entrepreneur, think of global distribution happening faster and faster and commoditizing. So, your product can spread faster than ever before through the world and grow faster than ever before through the world. So, if you have a value proposition for everyone on the earth, it will grow very quickly. This is what we invest in. We invest in iconoclasts, people who look at things differently. I remember thinking, the post office is the post office is the post office. And then Hotmail came along, and it just eliminated the need for licking that ugly envelope and putting the stamp on there and paper and all of the transportation costs and all that. And then same thing with a telephone. I thought a telephone was that thing that stuck into a wire into the wall, and you got on it, and sometimes you even had a party line where other people were on it. But that was kind of it, and you dialed it like this, and that was sort of the way it was going to be. So, if you look at icons, and they will, and you look at them as things to take down, you are an entrepreneur. Amazon had a very clever business model. It was putting zeros in their balance sheet and income statement. Not under sales or cash, but they have no accounts receivable, no inventory, and they're the biggest bookstore in the world. That was really clever. They get all the cash up front, and then they go around and see if they've got the book for you. It was a perfect business model. And then we like these disruptions, but I want to talk a little bit about SpaceX, because SpaceX was this private rocket company that turns out can send the same payload into space that NASA sends, and it costs NASA $300 million to put a certain payload into space, and $3 billion if you include all the overhead, just to put a certain payload into space. That same payload is put into space for 1/100th of the cost by a private company called SpaceX. Very cool. And then who thought we could take on the auto industries with an electric car? But Elon Musk, and he took them on, and he's got the best car out there. It is so fast, and you can go like 40 miles an hour and take a quick right turn without slowing down, and you don't skid. It's so cool. And now I'll talk a little bit about Draper University, because I started this. I thought the world needs more heroes. How do we start more heroes? And so I created this university where everything is turned upside down. We change the rules to everything. We start by changing the rules to volleyball, where both teams have to serve at the same time. So you get the idea. There are a couple of balls in the air. And then we changed the rules to monopoly and risk. We call it nuclear risk. And we changed the rules to baseball. Imagine that, taking on the American sport. And the idea is change everything. Go try changing everything. You're on the world to change it. See what you can do with it. And then we teach in very different ways. Tony Shea came and spoke. We had no teachers and no tenured professors, and all we have are 50 speakers that come, and then we have group projects. And it's a whole new way of teaching. And then we have survival training, both urban and rural, which is really fun. Urban is more like cold calling and scavenger hunts, and rural is like, see if you can make it kind of thing. And we've had a great time with our first program, and our next one starts in April. And at the end, you pitch a venture capital panel and your idea, and it's really fun. Place is on fire. So remember, wherever you go, entrepreneurs are heroes. They take long odds at extraordinary outcomes. They build wealth, create value. They make the world a better place. So let's give them a big cheer, and thank you very much. You've been a tolerant audience.